If I think, throw the house on Kansas City.
What's a typical Sunday Super Bowl for you?
Usually I'm home watching the Patriots playing the Super Bowl. But I'll have a party at my house. People come over, we hang out. I mean, I get sad when football season ends. Football season's so fun.
Sure.
Gives you something great. Everybody looks forward to Sundays. You know what I mean? When football's on.
So I know we've talked about this before. I typically do Radio Row. I get on a plane. I then fly to wherever the UFC is on Saturday. I won't this week because obviously it's in Perth. Now, we had the CEO of the Las Vegas Super Bowl committee on, Sam Jaffe. As you know, next year it's in Vegas.
Yep.
Have you already started? Will it be in Vegas next year?
So it's a no-brainer for us to go Saturday night before the Super Bowl in Vegas. So we haven't worked on any of that yet,
Sure.
but yeah, it's a no-brainer.
I didn't think I was throwing something new to you, like, hey, the Super Bowl's there, and you're going to have it in Vegas. Talk about Saturday. I mean, this could be, and we say it a lot of times, and it gets blown up. This could be the biggest. This could be the greatest. But right now, number one pound for pound against number two pound for pound is massive.
And both world champions in their prime. It just doesn't get any better than this in sports, period. So, and this thing's trending right now to be one of the top 5 biggest fights in UFC history on every metric, between pay-per-view, gate, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a good one. These are the type of fights that boxing never makes. They should, but they don't, and we do. And even though we do this all the time, this is the first time this has ever happened. Number one versus number two pound for pound, and they're both world champions.
Now, you always promote, even though you don't have to, but it's like McDonald's. They don't have to advertise, but they do. You promote everything. But you can sit back because you really don't need to promote this one like any other fight because, like I said, it's the two best right now.
Well, we promote this fight just like we promote every other fight. The thing about the UFC is we have a fight almost every Saturday. So, when you're going into an event, you're focused on Saturday, and then Saturday night, as soon as it's over, you're focused on the next event. So, but this is one of those fights. You can't get a ticket to this fight. It's sold out. It's going to break the gate record, and this thing is going to break the pay-per-view record in Australia and New Zealand, which is held by Conor and Dustin Poirier, the third time they did it. And this one's going to break that record, and then it's doing very well here too.
Co-main event.
The co-main event's awesome too. Emmett is an absolute savage, got knockout power, and Yair is slick, fast. Should be a fun fight.
As we're talking about Saturday, because it is Saturday, there's another one in a couple weeks that we've all waited for, and that's the return of John Jones, and to solidify the GOAT status. If he can go in and win, on the 4th, I already think he is the GOAT. But if he wins the heavyweight title, I think,
and I agree with you. No more. Listen, you can not like John Jones. You can say whatever you want about John Jones. It's hard to deny that he is the greatest of all time. And if he goes in, the Cyril Gane fight is better for him than the Francis fight. Because in the Francis fight, John Jones was the favorite. In this fight, he's the underdog. So the fact that he goes up to heavyweight, comes in as the underdog, and wins the fight against a monster heavyweight who moves like a middleweight, you can hate John Jones all you want. You can't deny him anymore.
Do you want to talk the announcement of Miami, or do you want to talk about the announcement of the Ultimate Fighter coaches first?
I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
We're going to talk about both. So
Yeah.
Miami was just announced.
We haven't been to Miami in 20 years. I always talk about destination fights. That's a big destination fight. People are so excited. I'm getting blown up already for tickets for that fight. And I actually think that if you look over the last 10 years, Miami's actually cooler than it's ever been. The state of Florida, period, since the pandemic is just popping, and it was time to go back to Miami.
Living in the Tampa Bay area, obviously I agree. And you did the radio show 20 years ago when Matt Hughes fought in Miami. So.
Well, you guys have the greatest governor in the country, as far as I'm concerned. What this guy has done, not just for the state of Florida, but when you're a governor of a state, what you're supposed to do for your people. What this guy has done for the people and for the state, I just can't say enough good things about the guy.
The return of Conor McGregor was just announced for the Ultimate Fighter. How did you come up with that decision, with Michael Chandler?
So, everything is based on timing. Who's where, who's got what fights are going on. Chandler had called out Conor McGregor. A lot of people love that fight. You cannot deny the fact that fight will be pure violence. These guys will be great coaches, and it's the first time we've ever had the Ultimate Fighter on ESPN the network. So we're usually on Plus, so it's big.
We used to talk, well, we do talk, but I'm saying back in the day, you first got involved, you loved the sport. Is there the same love? Is it the same drive now that you've been doing this as long as you've been doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love what I do, and I just launched this Power Slap. I love that too. I'm having as much fun with that in the beginning as I did with the UFC, and I'm hearing a lot of the same things about Power Slap that I heard about the UFC in the beginning. And when the media is super negative about what you're doing, that's when you know you got a hit on your hands, and it's a winner.
And it kind of drives you even more.
Oh, I love it. Watch what happens with Power Slap over the next 5 weeks. We launched this. I launched Instagram and TikTok, on Power Slap 2.5 weeks ago. So we have, last time I looked, which was 2 days ago, we have 1.7 million followers on TikTok, 688 million views in 2.5 weeks. On Instagram, we have almost 400,000 followers, 160 million views in 2.5 weeks. And I could go on and on with the metrics on this thing, but it's freaking crazy.
And I'm hearing the same things that I heard back in UFC 11 and all that kind of stuff. It's this.
100%.
Which, like you said, we heard back in the day. I enjoy watching you as you're watching it, your reactions and oh my goodness and all that kind of stuff. How hard is it to control that?
To control
your
my
emotions?
reaction? Yeah. It's very hard. It's very hard. It's what makes Power Slap so intriguing, man. It's like, and I'm getting all the oh my god, the brain damage and the this and the that. Let me explain something to you real quick. First of all, who has a better record in health and safety in combat sports than me? Nobody is the answer. First of all, in 2001, when we bought the UFC, right, we implemented all this health and safety protocols for the company. 2001, 2023, never a death or serious injury in the UFC event. 2001, 2023, boxing has had 34 deaths. So you focused on the wrong thing. And it's really not about Slap, it's about me. You want to come after me is what you want. I get it.
I remember vividly 37 and a half, Chuck Liddell fought at Bellagio.
With Vitor.
Right, and I think, and it was earlier in the day, and I went to a boxing match that night where a boxer died. And I remember that all the time. When they talk about MMA and the UFC like they do, the boxer died that night, which was awful. It is what it is.
So when you think about a boxing match, right, these fighters take 400 to 600 punches per event, right? Oh, but they can defend themselves. They take 400 to 600 punches, even though they can defend themselves, right? In a slap competition, these guys take 3 or less per event. Oh, and by the way, they don't do all the sparring that the boxers do leading up to the fight, too. And the same thing with MMA guys. These guys take 3 or less slaps, and they go through the exact same medical protocol as professional MMA fighters.
How did you find these fighters?
So originally what we did was, as I started to get intrigued with this back in 17 and started to dive into it and look into it, we researched who the best guys in the world were. So we reached out to them. So what we decided to do is, it wasn't a real sport. We regulated it, we turned it into a real sport, and we started to rank the guys on the show. Since the show has aired, we're going on episode 4, right? 930-something people have reached out and says, we want to be professional, we want to get involved in this. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do like a combine. We're going to bring people into the Apex and put them through training and the same stuff that we did this season with these guys, and find out who's real and who's not. And
again, I'm sure you've talked about it with your team, greatest team on the planet. Have you thought about a Power Slap on Friday, UFC on Saturday?
We have. So this thing is all still a work in progress. Sure. I mean, when you look at the numbers that we're pulling, even on TBS, we're on TBS Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock. We come in after AEW Wrestling. The network has tried tons of things in that time slot, right? Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, American Dad, Young Sheldon, they all drop off into the abyss. Every week we hold 50% of the AEW audience, and we're number 2 with men on all of cable television, right behind the NBA. So if you think about how really linear television is dying, right, and we're still doing what we're doing there, and if you look at what we're doing on social media, it's phenomenal.
Quickly, because I know you've got to go. Any other upcoming fights that you've announced, that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ones that we've talked about. I'm very excited to go back to London, England for the Usman fight with Leon Edwards.
Is it unfair that I'm making this number up, 98.7% think Leon Edwards has zero chance?
But that's the sport. I mean, I think a lot of people think the same of Volkanovski going into this thing. They think that, he probably isn't going to win. He's a 4-1 underdog. Right. Volkanovski, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world champion, is a 4-1 underdog. So, I mean, that's what makes this sport so exciting, is you never know.
As well as going back to when Kamaru lost, his title. Right. That's what we enjoy about the sport. 100%. Dominated the entire fight, makes a mistake.
Tejeda and Izzy, and you could rattle off 100 more.
As always, Dana, thank you very much. Let's not wait another 3 years.
Love to.
I need to get
Good
you
seeing
back
you, buddy.
Good seeing you. Dana White, everybody. A lot of good stuff coming. We're going to hit a break. We'll be right back.
Was that live? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Pleasure. Good to see you again. Yeah, let's do it.
You gonna?
Oh, yeah.
Wear Habib's.
Awesome, right?